I'm here with Remco Pardoel, who was here in the beginning of the UFC. What you guys see now started around 1993, started by the Gracie brothers. They felt their system could beat anybody. And back then it was the Ultimate Fighting Championship, which was not MMA. It was really the Ultimate Fighting Championship. Can you fight? I'm a bar fighter. I'm a boxer. I'm a judo guy. No karate. It was not mixed martial arts. There was too many disciplines. People picked one discipline back then. And you were a judo guy, right, Remco? Right?
My basis was judo. I did also taekwondo. I started with 4 years when I did judo. When I was 7, did taekwondo. I started 11 traditional jiu-jitsu, sports jiu-jitsu.
Japanese style, different.
Yeah, Japanese style jiu-jitsu. Yeah, and right. Europe is a bit different because it's a blend of traditional jiu-jitsu, and you had like ebo no kata and fighting system. A fighting system like should be level underneath sambo, sort of. Like combat sambo is legit. And
combat sambo is legit. People love combat sambo on this channel because this is the Habib and his coach channel pretty much, and me. I just helped them put it out there. But
we had like at the beginning we had the rules, or you can make low kicks, then we put some people out. Okay, low kicks not allowed anymore. They had like straight punches. But the first people, they can't play. They like the beating with judo, so they can't punch. When they punch somebody, they know like, okay, we can't do that anymore. So they stripped a lot of rules. In the beginning, it's like more authentic, and now it's okay. Now it's a referee sport, so that's why I prefer some other sports. I still love jiu-jitsu, but
Well, I was looking at the record. You were in UFC number 2.
Yep, right.
Number 2,
number 7.
You were the closest guy. You were moving in on one of the Gracies. I mean. You fought 3 times in one night, and then you fought Hoist Gracie, who went on to win. He got you by some move that they didn't show you in European, probably. Or, but I mean, I think looking back, you're like, there's so many ways I could have taken that thing, I'm sure. Being a judo guy myself, when I was, I'm around the same age as you are, and I took my judo in Europe, and I was like, some of the stuff I saw the Brazilian guys using was not used in the, European standard Olympic judo. I did not see it, right?
Now, we grew up with the Kodokan Judo. And if you go to Japan, you have different styles of judo. And Newaza is one of the Kosen Judo is one of the styles. And Gracie Judo is more attached to Kosen Judo than Kodokan Judo, which is okay. But, they had a 50 years advantage with Volotudo and all the events. And, they redefined their system really well, and they fueled MMA on those events, because people are like, okay, wow, I'm a kickboxer and boxer, and there's a guy like I give away 30 kilograms who is beating me like this, and then, the thing is, his belt was loose, so he knew exactly what he's doing. So I would try to make a hip throw, and I would pull his belt like, okay, fuck, this is going wrong, and I was slip my back and hit my leg, and it never happened to me. And never ever. I played with decent judo people, believe me, but he was like taking half a back. At the back, so I couldn't get him forward, making a roll. So he was like really attached to my hips, and then he hooked my leg, so I couldn't move. And then he slowly started to get it in, and he was a gentleman because he could slap my ass with my head or whatever he wanted to do, because he had opportunity because I couldn't move out because I couldn't move.
Right.
But then he applied the choke and he waited, and waited maybe 10, 20 seconds, maybe 30 minutes. He was a better man. That's the thing, you learn. I'm happy I came out like this, There's some people went out bad. That happened also. So I was lucky. I had some good fights. So it's good. I'm happy with it.
3 fights in one night. That's different than what they do now. And 3 fights, there was no rules. Pretty much no rules. I don't know if they changed it in the back locker room. Like there was kicking to the groin. There was almost eye gouging. There was headbutting. Headbutting was a weapon back then. Like I can't get this guy off the ground. I'm going to headbutt him. And
But okay, punch in the groin is okay. You know, nobody grabbed the balls. There's nobody did it because they had certain, you know, decency in them. So that's okay. But you know, you saw the fuck. How is it called? Which fight was it? That he punched the guy in the balls like really severe.
oh, I saw that. He's sitting there just punching the guy.
Yeah,
Punching.
usually 5 or 6
Guy
guys.
sitting there with his legs up, and the guy's just like punching like a heavy bag. And I'm like,
Yeah,
oh my gosh.
it's okay. You know,
It was. I think it was Chemo's associate, that other guy that used to be Chemo.
Also, yeah, he punched the other guy.
Yeah. Right.
So, those days were raw, you know, and people had to find a way. And I think, you know, we have to be grateful and thankful for Grace what he did for the art, because now a lot of people can make a living out of it. There's new sport evolved, which is going to be which is on top of it. You know, people look at the followers UFC has it these days. It's insane. You know,
you were part of the historic event, which seemed like a barnyard, backyard, what the heck, just wild man event. Like, we're going to throw this in a circus tent, but it was on television, and there was no rules. And, you know, basically it was for the Gracies to show the superiority of their system. And, you know, I felt a lot of guys were like, there was no mixed martial arts. So today, if you go to AKA and you're training with Coach Javier, you've got grappling, you've got stand-up, you've got kickboxing, you've got jiu-jitsu, you've got the combination of stand-up, grappling, doing rounds in the cage where you're doing everything. And so you're prepared for all things. But back then, if you were a boxer or if you were a judo guy, and then a wrestler grabs your legs in the double leg, that wasn't a judo move. We were used to throws, hip toss, right? Or inner leg trip, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, it evolved, but it was interesting because you're going to this thing, you're like, I'm about to fight in no rules. I'm fighting against all these guys in the States. Let's see what happens. What was your mindset going into it, if you could recall, back in that era?
Well, I always loved the challenge, because, you know, in Holland we had like, if you did boxing, kickboxing, you were like the great guys, tough guys. If you did judo, you were kind of gay, you know. And then you had like exotic sports, you know. They're like the one touch death thing, you know. Like if you fight me, you're gonna kill you, one touch. And if you say, okay, I'll pick the challenge, no, we can't fight because we're gonna kill you. So now, okay. So then was a tournament which said, okay, let's bring everything together. So for me, like, okay, wow, I want to fight a guy of this style, of that style,
right?
And I have great contacts with people from Wing Chun and Pentic Silat. You know, it's like the 1% idiots, which are challenging people. You know, that's it, what it is. But I want to prove myself. You know, I want to do, okay, how can I do against a kickboxing guy? Or against, because we hadn't tournaments or nothing yet, nothing in that era. And everything was like closed down, sort of, you know. It's not like in Brazil and America, you had much more dojo storms. We don't do that here in Holland, not yet. We didn't do it that much. You know, we train friendly because we're European, but so it's a different thing, you know. And then I did okay with jiu-jitsu. I won everything what I could win till 95, sort of. And you know, but that was like sports,
right?
And it's just like, okay, what's the deal with that? So I got an invitation for the first, but it was full. So I got an invitation for the second. Yeah, and then everything is turned into history, you know. That's and the second was like really international, because you had a Japanese guy, you had 2 European guys, you had American guys, you had Brazilian people. So like it was the first one which like really mixed up really well.
Yeah, that was interesting. It was a very international. It was like what they tried to do is grab the toughest guys that they could find from either Black Belt magazine or some street reputation that was big in an area. They look for tough guys, bone breakers, money collectors, athletes, and they mixed it all together. Bar fighter, military guy, you know, and they mixed it all up. And, you know, one thing I learned, because I was throwing arm bars on people probably around 1979 on the playground when somebody would try to pick a fight with me. And they, you know, then I see it on television. I'm like, oh, these guys didn't know what an arm bar was? I thought everybody knew, but they didn't. And then being a judo guy like you, there was a lot of kids that wanted to, you know, get in a little match or spar or try to fight you after school. And they were going to what we would call a belt factory. So every month, oh, you learned half a kick, we're going to give you a new belt. Before you know it, they've got 6 belts. And in judo, you can't get a belt except you test once a year, and you might not pass and you're stuck at that belt another year, just like jiu-jitsu. It's a long road compared to the belt factory. So these kids are believing in their nice little colored belt. Oh, I'm a tangerine belt. I could beat you. You're only a white belt. But we were going to judo 5 days a week. and we were training hard, kind of like, you know, you would for MMA. So every time a kid would try to throw one of these kicks at me, it was always a sweep and then down to the ground, and it was done. You just had to close distance. And I think you showed that. You fought a kickboxer that didn't work for him. And that's where judo got its strength. And the Russians are big advocates of judo because it's part of sambo. They like hip tosses. But then they're wrestling, the Dagestani wrestling, like Habib and them, that's a whole nother level. That's a whole different than Olympic. It's like their own hybrid version that like Habib's father kind of came up with. So now you see the guys fighting. What's your takeaway looking at an MMA fighter today? Like, what did they do right that you guys didn't get to do back then because the knowledge wasn't there, the opportunity wasn't there? You can't, you know, there's no excuses. It's
maybe people gonna accuse me I'm an old fuck, you know. But these days people got everything what they wanted. They got the right clubs with the right coaches. They got everything on the information on YouTube or whatever channel you want to go. You know, people are accessible. If you want to train with the best, you can go to AK, or you can go. If you say, listen, I need additional training, you can go to me, or you can go to Khabib's club. Whatever you want to do, but it's not happening. You know, and I see people. I don't say we were better or different. You know, at that time, you had a different mindset because it was one round. I don't know, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, half an hour. And then
so those were like unlimited rounds. Some of those fights back then, like there's guys laying on each other for 15 minutes. They're like, any minute now it's going down. And in Japan, if you were fighting in Pride, they would have thrown a yellow card at you, like, get up, or we're going to take your money if you don't perform, right? So
I love the Pride rules. I love the you know, it's it was good. It changed with Pride, you know, because we talk Pride, you know, like first was like everything on one spot, and then the rest is like Coleman and Kerr. They came in, you know, they overpowered. They saw some glimpse in the matrix, so they took people down, lay and pray, and then the people came like Nogueira, which brought back jiu-jitsu again, and then it got interesting, you know. Then Fedor made his rise because he was like the first really legit sambo guy, which, you know, if Johnson was like also great, but Johnson had hands of death, but his ground game was good, but not great. And Fedor had a thing. He knew, he understood every single part of the fight, you know, kick and punch, part in between, how to get close, throws, from throw to good position. And most people still fail at those two parts. They understand kick and punch, they understand the throw, but they don't understand the gaps in between. For me, it's like Mighty Mouse, Gauthier, Khabib, of course. Those are the guys which evolve every half year. They evolve and they understand, you know, they're not the best boxer. And I see Khabib change to be from a decent guy, stand up to a really good boxer. You see the last fights, you know, he knows. And Gauthier was getting close, but not close enough because they were moving like this. And
Gaethje might have been this level, but Habib was still growing, and that's what people talk about. If you have a rematch, and they go, "Well, what if he fought this guy? What if he fought Dustin Poirier, who just knocked out Conor?" Well, Habib's still evolving, man. He's not staying where he was. You don't fight Habib from 3 fights ago. And Habib's lifestyle, they live to train to live, and they stick with each other, and they're there for each other through every camp, whether they're fighting or not. It is a family. It is a constant thing, and they love it. Where you know, the American or European style might be, I won. It's off to Monaco. I'm going sunbathing. Let's drink some champagne. And Habib and them are like, no, we're going to go run the mountains. Thank you. Let's have a nice meal. And okay, celebration's over. Time to train. That's the difference. It's a very disciplined group of guys.
You hate this part because, you know, I don't hate stuff. I hate people, but you know, it's really stupid. People got to fight to go to a training camp. What are you thinking? You know, if you had a fight, take 10 days off because you got injured or whatever happens. If you're not injured, take a week off, take some rest, and get on.
Right.
Other people, I don't believe that's weight cut's another story. I think UFC should be better involved in the process. Don't push people to go weight lower. Get people in the weight, sort of, you know. If you train at certain weights, and then you get better fights at the end of the day. You know, don't make people hard for like pushing. Well, if you're that category, you're gonna do this and this. You know, let them. I don't. You know.
The one thing I think crazy. It's sad because you know, one of the great guys that you know, I talked about Paul Varlins. I'm sure you guys talked, and unfortunately, may he rest in peace. I get to interview him, and I ran into him in California. I lived near him at one point, and he would have stayed in UFC fighting. It was hard for him to find a sparring partner being 6'8", 345 pounds.
Yeah.
I mean, that was
time.
Can you imagine? It's like, you go fight the giant, you know?
Yeah.
And then they changed the weight class, and he was out of a job basically because that's a 90-pound weight cut. And he doesn't, his body, his skeleton was probably more than 265, you know?
I was, like from judo, it was like people will be look at the composure, and especially how the hips are built, you know? If they got big hips, they will fit in a certain weight category. You know, small hips, okay, they're going to be, I don't know, they're not going to be right in that class. So it's going to be interesting what's going to happen in the next few weeks. But, you know, I think Jones made a smart move because he was getting caught already twice in his own weight class. So he thinks, I'm going to do it with slower people, so he's going to be more fast. But I don't think he is natural heavyweight, but you have to be fighting with natural heavyweight for your time span.
John Jones coming up and possibly challenging. I guess the winner would be the winner of Ngannou and Stipe, more than likely, right?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting again. See how Ngannou evolved in his game.
Yeah, he's not jumping up 2 weight classes. He's going up 1 weight class.
Yeah,
he's probably in the cage after weight cut. He's probably fighting at 225 after he adds all the water back, right? So
he walks around at 220 sort of ready. So he's ready net heavyweight. You know?
That'll be an interesting evolution. But you know what I find interesting about this is, like, you've coached people. You worked with one of the first Russian superstars. You worked with Fedor, and Fedor came to you. How did you guys get to know each other or come into contact back in the day?
It was on a management with M1 Finkelstein and Mr. Echtelt, and you know, had a really great stint for 10 years. Nobody same like Princeton scene with boxing. You know, with Princeton it took 26 fights to see his game, and Verdun saw the gaps in his game, so we waited and let him cross. If he also have to compose, you have to think in a cross, and you can't cross the lines. If you cross the line, you give away something. You give if I punch like this, I give away my back, sort of. And for doing short, so he took the opportunity and played his game. I think Fedor fought too soon after that one. Didn't had a good conversation with his team about it. So then he fell again, and then he came to Holland to train and prepare. And we conversate about the opportunities which there are. So I helped him, like, okay, take to the ground, stay in between the legs, keep your hips wide, and just keep pounding. But don't go in the old style, because it doesn't work. People are waiting for that one. So then he won, and then we separated. And after that, okay, whatever happens.
Yeah, because Verdun was the first one to submit him, and that was in Strikeforce. And Fedor had just been the champion in Pride, and he'd fought all kinds of serious monsters over there, and he had a great record. He was one of the greatest Russian fighters, and he still fights, but it's more of like the Masters series now, because he's fighting the guys that are in the 40 plus range, kind of. It's more of a show, right?
I think people are. I genuinely believe that people are interested in the dinosaur league, with old people.
I like that, the dinosaur league.
It would be great. It would be great, man. Come on, let's.
I'm a dinosaur fan, so it's all good.
Yeah, me too. I think there's like 30%. I meet people with no details about the past. Like, okay, wow, they're young people. Some young people they don't know. They started watching art. Some people don't know who Ronda is or what Ronda did for our community. So we live in that kind of strange things, like 30%.
Talking about Arona and the jiu-jitsu and Pride, he was a beast, but he never pursued it after Pride. See, people, if you haven't watched Pride and you're newbie, and I'm not trying to point like, oh, you're new. It's like, oh, you finally get turned on to the UFC 3, 4, 5, even 8 years ago. There was Pride. Look it up if you can find it, to watch it on any streaming service or YouTube. It's some of the most amazing fights in Japan. They would have crowds of 50, 100,000 people there. It was amazing. But the Japanese did bring the people from the other countries there to lose. So they would kind of like, I'm not picking on them. Hey, they want their guy to win. It's local pride, right? Okay, so you'd have someone like Rampage Jackson. Hey, Rampage, we need you to come fight. Huh? Who? The best guy we got. How much training time do I have? 24 hours. Get on the plane. No training.
The guy who trained at your place, I was cool. Man, he just got duped a lot of times. But he was a great fighter. fucking hell, what's his name? He fought also in that era. Jesus.
There's a lot of people. You talking about out of AKA? You're
Oh,
talking.
but he fought a lot in Japan. He fought more in Japan than in the US. Jesus.
Trying to
He
think.
was really be good. Never top 4 because he got so many times he got duped by being last, called up, and he came on to fight, and then oh man, how is it called? How is it called? Oh.
It may come to mind, but I mean, out of the people
that was typically Japan. For me, I'd like I fought in Pancrase, and the first fight everything was arranged well, and then I went to Brazil to train. I went there for a month, and they promised me, listen, if you fight, then train, go to Brazil. We book a flight from Brazil to Japan, so that's okay. That's okay. And then the last day, nothing happened. So I had flown from Brazil to Holland, to Amsterdam. I had an 8-hour layover because I had to wait for the flight. And then I flew to Japan. And then 4 hours after I landed, I had a fight against Suzuki. Yeah,
You must have been drunk on jet lag. I mean, I've just had a guy. We have a funny video on our YouTube where Coach was filming one of the new fighters, and they just flew from Dubai. And he's like sleeping, holding the cage. He's like, hey, jet lag. He's messing with it. So, yeah, I mean, that is an unfair advantage. What people don't realize is if you have to fly and then fight, if you don't get on the ground a week or two before your fight, you need to adapt to the time zone, and then your body needs to rehydrate, and you need to get your motion and your sleep cycle. Otherwise, you have to. You're of your 100%, you're fighting on 65.
But that happened, It was interesting time because that time, I fought 3 times the UFC one night. They paid $5,000 for the whole evening, for the whole event. These days, people don't show up for that money, in the UFC. It's fine. It was that times, and then in Japan they paid reasonably. I was in the first batch which paid like a salary, a monthly salary of an average worker. Now they start paying great again. With the time for Pride was the first one who paid really well for the people.
That's amazing because you were there. And in the beginning, they didn't pay very much. The only guy that made a good check at the UFC was whoever won the tournament got $50,000. Yeah. Now Dana hands out $50,000 fight bonus on top of your salary. Oh yeah. But more back then, it was more about testing yourself as a fighter. Yeah. And guess what? You get to make history. You were part of UFC number 2, and you get to fight a Gracie, and you get to fight 3 times in a night. So you got to look at that and say, you know what? That's pretty interesting. It's hard. I know it's been many years. But do you ever think about it? Does it ever come through your mind, or you're like, I did that? I mean, how does it sit with you usually?
I was used to fighting tournaments. For me, it was like normal to have that thing around, And then I broke my leg, and then everything changed a bit because then you have to do stuff differently. But it was okay. In that time, you accept everything. There was no in kickboxing most of the time. But the most attractive K1 events were the 3 fights in a night for the championships. I don't know if I played judo all my life, so you used to do every 2 weeks a tournament, or with taekwondo or jiu-jitsu. You had every 2 weeks a tournament, and it was like 3, 4, 5, 7 rounds. You had a tournament in Holland, in Rotterdam. It's a Rotterdam Open that time. You had 2,000 competitors coming in. Yeah. So if you had a pool with people from the UK, Germany, Poland, whole Southern Europe, Italy, Spain, everything came in. And you had a pool of 80 people.
Wow.
Same like these days now with the IBJJF Worlds or Europeans. If you blue belt, purple belt, you have a pool of 100 people. So you have fights 7, 8 times in a day.
Wow.
So
I think people like you make great coaches. Like if you ever pick that up, but the fighter's got to be committed. It's about fighter loyalty because people are always offering a better deal down the street. Oh, I can teach you what he can't teach you, whatever. But I think like you and Javier were in the sport around the same time. Javier has gone on to be a very successful coach, and he hasn't chased anybody or tried to be like Don King. Hey, I'll make you a champ. He hasn't. If they come to him and they work with him and he sees potential, he'll work with them, but he doesn't chase them. He's not looking for a fighter for his gym, right?
Yeah.
Some people may be doing that, but I think that people of your era and people like Javier have a unique eye seeing the sport from its infancy is instead of jumping in and you got to start at the foundation. Yes, it's evolved. Yes, there's more advanced. Okay, what's different now than when you guys were fighting? When somebody was sinking in a Darce choke, rear naked choke, it was hilarious to watch it. As now that I look back, it's like, Hoist Gracie's slipping his arm around your neck. It's coming behind. He's got the arm, and we're watching it in slow motion. And then, you'd have some of the commentators like Jim Brown going, he's got him. I don't know what's coming down. It's like, and it would take like 2 minutes. Today, people would like, just get that off my neck, like, or, through the phone so you can't get the other artery to choke you out, right? Turn your neck. But nobody knew the way out of that submission. Through training, people learn to counter the submission. So now the big part of fighting is what? Low kicks. Have you noticed how much low kicks are being used in MMA?
Huh? You have a few guys on. We're a really good stint in 2010-12 with a few guys. I had a guy which loves boxing, analyzes boxing, and has the understanding of to learn from other people.
Mm-hmm.
That's rare. And I think if you make clubs like your guys are blessed. You have DC, you have Velasquez, you have Khabib, you have other people around. But if you go and you have Mendez, if you combine those four, you got the whole game, and you can explain the game. That rips off. If you go to another place in Florida, for instance, he's a great kickboxing coach, but he's the only one, and the rest is there sort of around. He doesn't connect deeply with other people. So his guys which are stand up okay and give a low kick okay, but it's not great.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because I give a punch, my punch is setting up the low kick, which is setting up the leg, to grab the leg or to get position to take down. That's how it meant to be. You can't just give a low kick, because if you get blocked, you break a leg or you hurt yourself. That happened with Silva at that time. So there could be more intelligence involved in the game, and that's only a few people which are doing that, see that. I'm a free agent. People can hire me. I will add value to a game, most likely, because I can see through a game and I can see through a weakness of certain people or certain athletes without breaking down somebody else. Because that's
I think you're an untapped resource. I mean, I think people in Europe, other fighters, should reach out to someone like you. It's not just jumping on the new fresh flavor. It's kind of like we took traditional martial arts, you and I, and we had an older sensei, and sensei was somebody who had spent their year in the craft.
Yeah.
Maybe they weren't physically as agile as you in your young body because they'd gotten older, but at different times in your life, in your 20s to 30s, you might be at your peak. 30 to 40, you could hang in there and push it a little, start hitting the 40 to 50, 60 range. Yeah. But if you can still teach, a good coach is what makes a difference. And I think people of your era are undervalued. I think fighters should find that opportunity to reach out, because you guys have a unique perspective that a lot of people haven't considered. You can't just look at, that fighter just won.
Yeah.
Now he's a coach. I'm going to go learn from him. How much coaching has he done? Someone, you know what I'm saying? Habib's unique in that way because he grew up as a fighter of a coach's son, and he worked with him all the time, and he has natural leadership, and he used to running the practice, running the team. He's got that like a traditional martial art, like you had and like I had. So Javier is more traditional too.
Yeah, it's okay. I think I always go to the horse's mouth. That's one thing I try to keep in mind always. Like the one of the best coaches, strength conditioning, which can connect to boxing and martial arts, is still alive in Holland. It's Michel van Holland. He's the greatest. He brought me back. I had a really bad leg and I was broken in 6 places, dystrophia. He trained to get back on a certain level, which I can be competitive. I never could be in the top 4. I know that doesn't matter. But I can walk. I can do whatever I want. That's great. Like if you look now. Some people hire people like, okay, why you want to hire this guy? He's great at jiu-jitsu, but he's not a great teacher.
Right.
Why are you doing that? Look at Connor's grain. This guy is not adding value, which it should be in 2 years. I didn't see Connor growing like this. He was getting in from 2010 to 2015. He was really going up. He went from karate to more boxing kind of style, so that's also showed him. But his jiu-jitsu is not next level. He couldn't react or interact with dealers and other grapplers. He couldn't anything with With Khabib, he could do anything.
You're talking about the same way that I believe Javier thinks, is that he said, I saw no evolution. And our quick conclusion, because Khabib was facing Justin Gaethje, and Justin Gaethje was low kicking the back of the leg, the lower calf. And if you hit that hard enough, it will give you dead leg. And what happens with dead leg? Now you can't move. And when you give up movement, you can't react, and you're standing target, right?
Absolutely.
And some people will just fall down. They can't even stand on the leg. It's like a pressure point in a way. You keep it. Front of the leg, you can check with the shin, but the back of the leg, not so much. So they worked on that. They knew that Justin was going to have that, right? Now Javier doesn't sit there with a huge video screen and watch every fight. He's a fighter. He looks at the guy once or twice, and it goes into the algorithm like it would with you. You guys have seen thousands of fights. You guys were in the first fighters. You've seen thousands. So, Conor fought Nick Diaz. Excuse me, take that back. My bad. Nate Diaz. And Nate Diaz is not a low kicker, not a kicker at all. He fought Khabib. Khabib wasn't using low kicks at the time. He fought, and and then he fought Cowboy, who wasn't really mastering the leg kicks. So his last few fights, then you would think he'd be evolving, that he'd be coming out with, because he's got pretty good kicks himself, that he would be using them himself, right? And he was too in love with his left hand. Well, just like let's pick a great fighter who relied on his overhand, Chuck Liddell. Chuck had a great run. And then people blueprinted his punch. And then no matter how deadly your knockout can be, then they see the opening. Oh, well, he's going to throw, and at that point, the door's open. I'm going to hit him right here, right? And then you see that. So people like you, I am sure you can add to the game plan. I advise people to look you up. But let's talk about briefly, and we could, this has been fun talking to you about it. It's a very unique story. You got me on a track here. You'd think that I prepared this. I didn't. But you have a new thing, like you think that you're trying to start something online in the meanwhile while we're dealing with all this COVID stuff for people to train at home?
It's built in a few steps. It's going to be called Sense at Home. It's on Instagram. So Sense at Home, or look at my name, you can find it. The first thing I want to do is get the best people in the business giving PT, because I see a shift in the market that people won't go to the gym, will not go to the gym, or prefer not go to the gym, whatever. Those people prefer to stay at home or go to a place where they can train with 3-4 people, get a high quality of training instead of going for a group of 20 people, So they want to, you see the boutique clubs, people spending $18 to $25 for a cycle class or whatever. It's happening for strength conditioning and jiu-jitsu and MMA too. So it's going to be in the fitness. It's going to be wider. Some people are not really commercial. I know few people in my circle which are like really great kickboxers, but they have zero marketing. Why should a guy which won a few times the K1 teaching class for $150 an hour?
Right. If you have that fan base, there's people that would have trouble competing with your average gymnasium NAS certified trainer, even if they were a famous fighter, because that fame, they just like Hollywood, anything, they say you have 15 minutes of fame. But if you're providing a good product, you might mix those people in, and then they're like, "Ooh, I do like this guy. I never saw him win rings or win pride, but
some people are not approachable. You can't find them on the internet. They're not visible enough, or they're not proud on what they did. That's also happening. They're too shy. So I'm going to provide a platform where people can. We're going to travel to Uzbekistan. I want to have really good training. So we're going to find who's the best kettlebell trainer, who's the best MMA trainer. We can find it. Get an app, book him. 5 or 10% will go to the company, and the rest straight in for the trainer. So they always make good profit, and they always have an opportunity to teach. The second layer will be creating content, because it's really hard now. If you're a beginner, where do you need to look for? Go to Gracies, or do we go to Stima, or will I go to Fabio Gugel, or will I go to Cain Velasquez, or will I go to Khabib? What's a good beginner program? And I think people should be looking at certain movements, and you got 4 options. So they're going to get some free content, but then they're going to buy the masterclass afterwards. So it's 1 minute free, and then 2 minutes of the underlayer, the deeper layers. Why are you going to do this? Why is this? Why is that? They're going to buy for €1 or €1.50 or whatever. Very simple, very cheap. Then the third layer is going to be it's going to be changed also. People are going to train at home or at hotels. And mirror is a concept which is like really at forefront at this moment. There are other players in the markets which are not. They're not
The mirror concept, I understand it. I've seen it. I looked at how to make my own mirror thing with Javier. Javier didn't want to do it. Javier didn't want to do it, but it's, to me, I'm all about technology. I was like, because he's traveling too much and he's actually, he's in the fight game right now. He's actively in it and he's been in it consistently. So doesn't have a lot of side time. But the mirror thing is good for former fighters and trainers and coaches who can't keep their dojo open or their gym open or their MMA gym open, because how else are you going to stay in shape? I mean,
and it's going to be new. And it's going to be a new form of business. Suppose we're going to try the mirror thing will be on the market for €500 or $500 in 2 years. The AI will also be advanced in 2-3 more levels. So you're going to do a class in front of the mirror. It will correct you and will give an advice. Hey, you go to Javier, you go to Remco, you go to whoever is going to help you with getting the right punch or getting the right drill or getting the right thing. And that's an opportunity and I think a new market. On top of that, people who I'm a coach, I can't present. I'm not a guy who can, I'm not that type. But a presenter can make $350 to $500 for like giving a good class, which is going to be sold. And that's happening with Peloton already, but not happening with martial arts, not happening with strength conditioning. So there's a lot of opportunities in it.
Well, I think Europe especially. You guys are more locked down than I am here. You got to focus on the European market, numero uno. And I think that the fighters, if they can train some people at home and give them some endorphins, because it's hard to stay living like a caged bird during these times. And then people are skeptical if they have a relative pass away. So I do think the online training platform will be the future. And that's what we're coming to.
Yeah, it's going to be part of the future. The biggest thing now is happening in our industry. We're getting alienated. We can't do a workout together. It doesn't matter, of course, or jiu-jitsu or kickboxing, doesn't matter, ballet, doesn't matter. That's really bad. So,
it's hard to train jiu-jitsu by yourself. That's the only thing. So I think you got to do fitness.
I think there will be if this thing moves on, there will be an underground movement. Like, okay, you're the same weight, my weight, with the same age group, with the same belt group. Okay, we're gonna make that location, live camera, we do a fight. And who wins promotes to the next one. That's going to happen. It's going to happen.
So you think there's going to be some underground fights, Kimbo Slice style, going on?
It will go underground again. It can't be different.
I love it.
We're rebels.
Live from my basement. Yeah.
It's going to be a big hit. It's going to be a really big hit. And I think that people are rebels. You can't. There's always 10% who say, I'm not going to do that. I know people are training. I know people are 3-4 training. They do a test.
There's people training anyways, even though, how are these guys showing up for the UFC? When the UFC, they have a bubble. They have you tested. I was in Dubai. They were testing the heck out of us. I was there with Habib's camp. We get tested I get tested when I landed from the plane. I get tested the next day at the hotel. I get tested the day after. And I'm like, I didn't mind it at all. I'm like, fantastic. I can feel more relaxed because I know everybody's tested around me. I didn't mind that at all.
No, it's okay. And I think that you got to give to Dana. Dana was the only one who said, fuck it all. I'm going to do events. And people said, everybody fell over it. And he did it, and they did a great job at UFC.
It was for the first sport.
Yeah.
So how can people, I got to ask you this, how can people follow you? We'll try to do another podcast longer in the future because I have to have like meetings coming in. So where can people find you on Instagram and?
Instagram, my face, Remco Pardoel, or you can go Sense at Home, we're connected. So if you look at that, you'll find me. That's the easiest way because I'm
going to put it on the video. So when I close this out, I will edit it and put it in there.
I sent you the QR code tonight or tomorrow, and that's easy because I'm going to depart Facebook. I'm not. It's too much opinions, and I don't know. Just
that's good. Keep your brain healthy. Stay off Facebook. Watch the podcast. I'm kidding.
Yeah. It's on YouTube link on Instagram also. So it's
right.
You can make a ties with Facebook, but I think you can do YouTube or whatever. Going to work these days. It's people find us.
I got to thank you for coming on. It's been awesome talking to you.
Thank you.
covering the history. So
Yeah.
people will see your link. And thanks
Thank
for
you very
tuning
much.
in, everybody.